What was Jesus teaching in the story of the widow's two mites? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Luke on walking through the Bible.
His word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, turn to Luke chapter 21. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 4. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Luke chapter 21, beginning at verse 1. And he looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury, and he saw a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. So he said, Truly I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their abundance have put in offerings for God, but she out of her poverty put in all the livelihood that she had. It is still Tuesday on the final week of Jesus' ministry. In fact, as far as we know, this was the final day of Jesus' public ministry, with the events of Wednesday and most of Thursday largely unknown. Jesus has spent the day in Jerusalem in the temple, teaching and answering questions posed by the Pharisees and Sadducees and scribes. In the last episode, he taught them an important point about the Messiah, in that the Messiah would be God as well as man. What we read of today likely occurred near the close of the day, and is a story that was not covered in our study of Matthew, but was in our study of Mark. In verse 1 of chapter 21, Luke tells us that Jesus was sitting opposite the treasury, watching how people put their money into the treasury. In many churches today, a collection plate is passed around for people to give into the treasury of the church, but to assume that that is the only acceptable way would be wrong. In the temple, they used a box, and so long as giving is done properly according to the will of God, the where we place our money is largely left up to us. What Jesus witnessed is that when the rich came, they put much into the treasury of the temple. This would be expected, for the rich have plenty of money with which to give. However, Jesus also witnessed a widow who came and threw in 2 mites. A mite was a small copper coin, which would be worth a fraction of a penny. In other words, the value of what she put in is very small. If we asked who gave more into the treasury, almost certainly people would say that the rich gave more, because the sheer amount of money was greater than that of the widow. That was not what Jesus said, though, for he said that the widow gave more. For the rich put in out of their abundance, but the widow put in out of her poverty. In fact, she put in all that she had. That was quite the sacrifice for the widow, but it showed how much she valued the work of the temple and how much she trusted in God to provide for her needs. Now, when people read this story, they can sometimes come away with the wrong impressions about what Jesus was teaching. First of all, he was not teaching that God expects everybody to give him all of their money. Nowhere in the New Testament do we find such a command. This widow chose to give all that she had. It was her attitude that Jesus was commending, not the fact that she put in everything. Jesus also wasn't teaching that it doesn't matter what you give. New Testament giving is to be according to how we've been prospered. Some might give more than they've been prospered, but we shouldn't be giving less than we've been prospered. Our heart needs to be in the right place, and we must value the work of the church, and so we want to be a part of that work. Jesus isn't teaching that rich people cannot please God. In witnessing the rich people give here, the passage doesn't tell us that Jesus was chastising the rich for how much they gave. Luke does tell us that they gave a lot. He is just making the comment that the widow gave more because of what little she had. And percentage-wise, the comparison is correct. Rich people can obey God, and when they do, God will be pleased. And finally, Jesus isn't teaching that poor people are acceptable to God in whatever they do. If this widow would have put in all that she had in order to be praised of men, then she would have had the wrong attitude and wouldn't have been praised by Jesus. She gave for the right reasons and thus was commended. So if Jesus wasn't teaching those lessons, what was he teaching? First things first, Jesus is teaching that God takes our ability into account when we give. Again, we're to give according to our prosperity. God doesn't expect the impossible, but he does expect that we do what we are able to do. Jesus is teaching that our giving is not to be done to be seen of men. That doesn't mean that nobody can witness what we give, but that isn't to be the purpose of our giving. We're to give with a cheerful heart to God. Jesus is teaching that our sacrifice is shown by what we have by what we have left, not by how much we've given. A sacrifice isn't really a sacrifice if we really don't notice anything is missing. The widow sacrificed much, while in comparison the rich sacrificed little. That lesson should really get us to consider our giving and give accordingly. And finally, Jesus is teaching that God knows everything about us. The widow didn't come and announce that she was giving all that she had, but Jesus, as God, knew that she did. God knows all. Nothing is hidden from him. So let us act in a way that brings glory to God. With that, our time is up for today. Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Luke chapter 21, verses 5 to 19, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.